Welcome to another amazing week that we get to live on this wonderful planet and go out and celebrate who we are and do all the things that make us uniquely us. And this is one of my favorite things I do every week. So I thank you for joining me. This week, as always, we're going to start off with a moment of gratitude. I want to share a little story. This weekend, I took my daughter to South Carolina, Beaufort, flew into Charleston, and met up with some friends, Macy and her husband, Alfonso, and their two kids, Summer and Sunny. I've watched them for the last 5 years on social media. I had done a TV show with Macy years ago. We knew each other for all of 3 days. Never met her husband or her kids before. I watched them on social media and Facebook. And about a month ago, I reached out and said, hey, I really want to get together with you so our daughters can meet and hang out. And we spent an entire weekend together in South Carolina. And it was great. It was great that social media allows us to know a lot about each other when we use it in the right way. And then we can spend real time together. So I'm very thankful to Macy and her husband, Alfonso. We hit it off great. Entrepreneurs, fathers of daughters, people, hustlers and shakers, and people that want to make the world a better place and really build our empire. Really appreciate being around growth-minded people. That's what it all comes down to. A couple weeks ago, I talked about mountain people, growth-minded people versus plateau people. And as I've really leaned into that, it's very obvious to me when I'm spending time with growth-minded people, the mountain people, the people that are willing to take on the peaks and the valleys of life versus the plateau people that, got what they got in life and they're okay with running it out. And so I'm thankful for all the mountain people in this world and especially them. Second order of business, speaking. I'm doing more and more speaking. Picked up another gig last week, so I'm excited about that. Another paid gig here in the greater Milwaukee area. Workshops, speaking opportunities, keynotes, whatever your organization needs. The language of leadership. That's the keynote I've been doing in the workshop. There's anywhere from a 45-minute keynote all the way up to a 4-hour workshop, all in the same realm. And it can be customized for your team, depending on what language and leadership needs they have. And so that keynote's been really doing well from an advertising and selling perspective. So when it comes to your organizations, there are people that are going to use limiting self-beliefs and words that prevent them from moving forward, prevent them from being that growth mindset, that optimistic mindset. And when I come in and do a keynote and a workshop, gives us a chance to reset the expectations of what language will be empowering and uplifting, getting you and your organization where it needs to be. Language of leadership, contact me, andywines.com. You can also email me, call me, text me, LinkedIn me, whatever, direct, so we can get the ball rolling to get your language or to get your organization speaking in language of leadership and language of empowerment. All right, let's talk about unempowering language, poorly powering language, shit words that do not serve. Let's talk about that today. Action Coach. I like to give credit where credit is due. Action Coach has a model where they talk about ownership, accountability, and responsibility above the line, and then blame, excuse, denial, living below the line. And so I'll give credit to them. And they have different models. And so as I think about how does that work, blame, excuse, denial, how does that work and live in my life? And I know that when we want to change our lives, we use the 3-step method or the start, stop, continue methodology of change. And when it comes to blame, excuse, denial, it's very clearly obvious. It is in the stop bucket. When we create and do not take ownership, accountability, and responsibility, we are going to be blaming others, giving excuses as to why we are unable or unwilling, more or less, or we're going to be in denial of the problem overall. And so those are all behaviors that need to be stopped. So let's talk about them. And I'm going to put them in order of importance. We're going to build up to the worst of the three. So they use BED, blame, excuse, denial, because it spells bed. Fine. I'm going to say excuse is the simplest one of the three. Excuse is the one that people, I will say, use most often. Also, I want to preface this by saying people have as I've been studying this the last 6 months or so and watching people and reflecting back on myself and how I show up in situations and reflecting back on other people have a predisposition to one of the three. Absolutely is like a go-to. It's no different than fight, flight, or freeze. People have a predisposition. So I'm prefacing this right off the bat. I know me, mine is blame. That is my predisposition. Before I give you an excuse or I deny a problem, I will blame others. So there we go. Now it's transparent. I'm being vulnerable and forthright with you. So as you hear these, and you reflect this week, reflect back to how you showed up in certain situations and which of the three did you do more often than not. Again, self-reflection is the first step. Self-awareness is the second step. Self-regulation is the third step. Okay, let's talk about excuses. Our excuses is insignificant information that does not get to the point. Earlier today, we had an employee, he had 30 minutes to get the project done. After 90 minutes, the project still wasn't done. Now, part of our SOP is if the project's going to take longer than what it's slated for, you need to call back to operations and explain to operations what the limitations are, right? Has the job changed? Did you not bring the right equipment? Was the material different than what we thought, right? We do junk removal, right? There's a list of questions that you can give us information on, and then we can say, okay, what do we need to do? Do we need to send out more bodies, right? Is a limitation on maybe the material was supposed to be one place in the house and now it's out in the basement, right? A garage versus a basement, it's going to take longer. The material that was supposed to be boxed up or bagged up isn't boxed up or bagged up. They added more material and now you have a capacity issue. Right now we need to send more trucks. Fine. So this employee did not call to let us know how the job was going. After 30 minutes, it's his responsibility. After 60 minutes, didn't call. And at the 60-minute mark or something about that, we called him. Didn't pick up on his radio. Didn't pick up on his cell phone. He finally calls back after 90 minutes to first tell us, oh yeah, this job's taking longer than expected. And then we said, why didn't you call? And all of a sudden it was 74 fucking reasons, excuses, and none of them add up. And the more he talked, the less I believed because it was excuse after excuse. Now, this is kind of like this analogy that there was a book written in the 1930s. It was like 100 scientists that think Albert Einstein is wrong. And then someone asked Einstein, why, what do you think about that book? And he said, if there had been one scientist that could prove it, they don't need the other 99. Same with excuses, right? It's insignificant information. And you're dancing around it. It doesn't go at the core of the problem. Now, a reason, right? You can have one reason why you did not meet expectation. You only need one. So as you provide more and more reasoning, chances are it's excuses. So when you're in excuse mode, the first question you need to ask yourself, right? When you're telling yourself, oh, this is why I'm not going to the gym. Oh, this is why I can have the cheat meal. Oh, this is why I didn't fucking accomplish my goals today. First question, what can you do about it? Look at what the expectation was. Look at where you are and what can you do about it to get closer to that? So in this case situation today with the guy in the truck, he gave all these different things. It's okay. What can you do about it? Could you have called and said, hey, I need more buckets? Could you have assessed the situation, gone out and gotten what happened was one of the contributing factors was it was stuff on the driveway. It got rained on. They went to go pick the bags up. The bags started ripping. It's okay. Could you have gone to the store nearby and grab more heavy construction bags? Could you have come back to the shop and got buckets? Could you have called the shop and said, I need buckets out here? Could you have called and said, I need a dump truck instead of a box truck? Yeah, these are all things that could have been done. You did nothing. And then when we called you, you didn't pick up. And then you didn't follow the SOP. So now when we're in excuse mode, the quickest way to break it is, what can you do about it now? What is the first step you can do it about it? And then oftentimes when things go to shit, people want to say, what went wrong? No, let's get beyond that. We already know when it went shit. It all got fucked up. Next question, what can you do about it in the future to prevent the root cause? And now all the excuses go away. So if a kid says, oh, the kid's always late for school. Okay, you're always late. Okay. Oh, because this, and the kid did, and my sister didn't get out of the shower, so I got in the shower late. Okay. What can you do about it? Can you wake up earlier? Yeah. Can you take a shower earlier? Yeah. Can you take the dog out ahead of time so you're not taking them out at the very end of the day? Can you pack your lunch the night before? Can you lay your clothes out the night before? Look at all these things that you can choose to do to ensure that you make mission, which is getting to school on time. So there you go. When you are full of excuses, whether it's you or others around you, right? What can you do about it now? And what can you do in the future to prevent it? When you're honest with yourself about those two questions, and when others are honest with you, all the excuses disappear. Because then we're not talking about the 74 reasons why the thing did good. We're going to talk about the one angle, the one area where you chose to make a decision, and did you or did you not make the decision? And when you make the decision and you still get the same result, guess what? It doesn't give you another excuse. I did that already. No. What next? What else can you do? What's next? Or you're going to give up. Those are your options. No more excuses. Second thing, blame. And I can tell you, blame is where I struggle the most. Blame is, let me get the information, let me get the data that supports my already predisposition of why I'm great and why you're wrong, or why I can blame somebody else, or why it's not my fault. I know that about myself. That is how I operate. I have a strained relationship with a family member, and it was really easy for me to blame her for years and years, going back to when we were kids, why we have a strained relationship. Or I can say, okay, where's my DNA, right? And there's the solution. Where's my DNA in this? What part do I have in this? Did I reach out to this person? Did I establish a relationship? Did I establish and explain my boundaries and what's acceptable behavior for me? And when I've done that, I no longer have a strained relationship with this person. I've accepted the relationship that we have. I have my boundaries. I've clearly defined my boundaries, and I'm no longer upset. I was upset for years, and I blamed this person for the shit relationship we had, going back to kids. And instead, I finally said, okay, where's my DNA? Did I set my expectations? Did I explain my boundaries to the other person? Do I know what my boundaries are? Let's start there. Let's start with, do I have my own boundaries? It's okay, I have my boundaries. These are my boundaries. And now I no longer have a strained relationship. The relationship is what it is. I was going to say it's less than or it's not. It doesn't matter. It is no longer strained. We are civil. We have an understanding. And it's not strained, right? I went from strained. I went from shit to not shit, right? It's not ideal. It's not the greatest relationship ever. However, it doesn't keep me up at night. It doesn't bother me. I don't find myself wanting to justify the way I am to her or to other people in my relationship with her because I've now accepted that these are my boundaries within the relationship. Otherwise, and I know me, I'm 100% guilty of wanting to blame others. And I come up with excuses and blame in my head all the time before getting confronted with stuff. So it's loaded. So when someone does question me, I can quickly tell you why I'm not wrong. And I've learned to quell that. I've learned to re-argue that in my head. So when I do get approached and people do ask me questions, I can articulate where I'm coming from, where I failed, and what I need to do in order to rectify situations. And finally, the worst of the three of blame, excuse, and denial is denial. It is by far the worst of the three. Excuses, the old adage, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one. No one wants to see yours or hear yours. Got it, fine. Blaming, you're now assigning responsibility to somebody else and no longer taking ownership. Not good, right? Much worse than excuse. So these excuses, you're only really owning yourself. Now you're pushing your problems on other people. Denial is by far the worst of the three because denial, you are no longer accepting reality. You are not willing to accept facts. I had a business partner here at Camel Crew Junk Removal at one point. We were $200,000 short of our revenue goal in the first 9 months of the year. We were $150,000 short of our EBITDA goal, our profit goal for the year. And sat down. I said, we need coaching. We're missing the mark here, right? We're not communicating effectively. We need to bring in a coach to get us on the same page so that we can achieve these goals that we put forth in January. First question she asked him was, hey, how are things going there at the business? He goes, oh yeah, really good. Yeah, things are good. She goes, the data says you guys missed your goal by $200,000 and you're going to miss your goal by the end of the year. He goes, oh, things are going better. Things are trending better. Okay, what things? Oh, the employees are engaged. Okay, let's talk about the employees. You needed to do 15 reviews this year, annual reviews. You got 15 employees. How many have you done? 3. All right. And it's October. You've done 3 reviews. And you're saying things are good. That is complete denial of the facts. That individual was gone within the company within 2 months, 3 months of that conversation because he was in denial about the facts of the organization. I had another person in a similar position. Someone directly reported to me. And he said to me one time, you have no idea how much value I bring to this organization. After I asked him to articulate what he does all day, because I was struggling to see it. And I said, if you're so invaluable, then I'm no longer able to pay you. And that was the end of our relationship there because it was denial of the basic responsibility. What value do you bring to this organization? What are you doing all day? That's a genuine question. What is it you do here? I'll reference Office Space, one of the greatest movies of all time. So when you're in denial mode, get to the simple question. What are the facts? When you find yourself looking at a situation and say, I can't figure this out. Why is it this way? They should be that way, right? You're spinning out of control. Stop and say, okay, what are the facts? Especially when you see other people, they're all over the place, right? Stop them, right? Let them run themselves out to a certain extent and just get to a point. All right, stop. We're done now. What are the facts here? Let's stick with the facts and only go back to the facts. As soon as you start adding in your perception, your jumping to conclusions, what you thought they meant, what you thought they said, what did they say? What were the words they used? What were the actions, right? And now we can agree on it. With EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, in our weekly meetings, our 90-minute meetings, the most important 90 minutes of our week, We spend 60 minutes of the 90 minutes in IDS, which is our issue processing process, which is identify, discuss, solve. The majority of the time is done in the discussion. However, we need to identify what's the issue. What are the facts? Because when we discuss without facts, we're not on the same sheet of music. We have to identify the facts. One of the beautiful things over the last 6 months or so, as I've really dug into this blame, excuse, denial, it all started last year, October, so maybe more than 6 months now, closer to 9 months now, when I was seeing, hey, why am I failing as a business? Why am I failing as a business owner? Why am I struggling in my relationship with my direct reports? As soon as I started looking at blame, excuse, denial, I started seeing patterns of behavior with people. And then it allowed me to anticipate what they're going to possibly push back with and how do I overcome that. When it comes to blame, that's a direct result of a conversation I had when I learned about blame 18 months ago, because I was the subject there. I was the one refusing to take ownership and accountability and responsibility for my participation in a relationship. I went to my business coach to talk about a personal matter, and he heard me out. He let me go for 45 minutes about all the reasons why I was right. And he goes, okay, got it. Where's your DNA? Where's your fingerprints? What did you do to contribute to this situation? And my entire 45-minute dissertation went to shit. Because now I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, how did I contribute to that? What do I need to do differently? And it's as simple as standing up for myself. It's as simple as understanding that I have a wounded inner child within me. And when he speaks, he doesn't speak for both of us. When I feed the wolf of weakness, the wolf of fear, when that wolf shows up, I got no leg to stand on. I'm allowing the worst parts of me to come out and blaming others because I chose to be inadequate in those situations. And as soon as I said, where are my fingerprints? When we look back at the facts, what did I do or not do to contribute to this situation? So I take this very personal in that situation. And when it comes to excuses, we all fail ourselves. We all fail others. And I am one that I always got a good excuse. And it gets me nowhere. At the end of the day, it's wasted energy. It's wasted time. It doesn't get us closer to the goal. It doesn't get me closer to where I want to be as an individual. And as I've spent the last 9 months, 18 months, whatever we want to call it at this point, really looking into this, honing into this, and utilizing the language of empowerment, I realize my blame, my excuse, my denial become less. Reminds me of something I saw this weekend. An Instagram story shared to me by Blake, our HR director. And he talked about micro changes, right? Micro, minor, right? Not even 1 degree, right? Move the needle a hair in the right direction, right? And when you move those micro degrees every single day, eventually it turns into a macro life. And so for me, it's very simple. My mission in this world is to change the world 1 word at a time. So when you start asking yourself the questions, denial, what are the facts? Blame, where are your fingerprints? Excuse, what can you do about it? When you start putting those questions in and answering them honestly and truthfully with vulnerability and transparency to yourself, this conversation can take place in your head. No one will even know what happened. When you start doing that, you will start making those micro degrees of change. And over time, you'll have a macro change in the way you see the world because you will become empowered. You will take ownership, accountability, and responsibility when you no longer provide blame, excuse, or denial for what's going on around you. Take this in this week. This is a great opportunity for you to do self-reflection, how you've shown up in your life, what life you want to live, and what you can do about it. As always, do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world and show the fuck up. We'll see you next week.